Welcome back. This is Create by Fire, and this is monthly monetization, month one. I'm going to be doing these videos once a month and go over the channel stats and the amount of money that I made in the previous month and in total in each video. The first video was on September 28th. I'm going to be including that video here as well as all of October since there wasn't a video for September. And I haven't really settled exactly on how I'm going to do these videos yet. So if you have any ideas of what I should add or change, just put them in the comments. So the main plan for these videos. Well, first, obviously, I'm going to be discussing how close I am to monetization since I'm not actually making money yet from these videos. So I'll just talk about how close I am to those goals. I'll be covering that numerically, percentagely, and the ETA for when I'll probably get monetized. I will go through each video that was released during the previous month. In this case, also the September video. And I'll go over retention, impressions, views, watch time hours, average percent viewed, subscribers gained, click-through rate, and my thoughts on each of those videos and why they may have done as bad or good as they did. And then I'll also cover the videos that were covered in the previous monetization video, which hasn't occurred yet, but next month I'll be looking back at these videos to see how they have matured since from those two time periods. So for instance, the videos that were at the tail end of October haven't really had any time to get any traction yet. So I'll look at them again in December to see how they have done over the course of November. And then I'll also cover any other special videos of that are noteworthy that may have had like some kind of special spike that I could address and talk about those as well. And then lastly, I'll also be covering Amazon affiliate links and how much I've made from those and that sort of thing. All right, so let's get into it. All right, so we're just looking here at the YouTube Studio page. We're going to go in order as they were published. So the first video in line here will be becoming a YouTuber. That was the one on September 28th. So we're going to take a look at the retention for each of these videos. And the main thing I want to look at is when did the main drop off stop for the retention? Or the retention loss. So right here at about 1 minute and 20 seconds or so, that's when it kind of stopped. It got to 25, 23 or whatever kind of percent. And then it kind of glided down from there until it reached about 11% there towards the end. So I made it about 1 minute and 20 seconds in and only had 25% retention at that point. But by that point, the people that stayed more or less stayed through until the rest of the video. Now for the next part of this, I'm going to go ahead and jump into the see more section on here, and I'm going to be adding a few things. So we already have impressions, views, subscribers, view time or watch time, and the click-through rate. I'm also going to go ahead and add the average percentage viewed, but I'm going to go ahead and add back in or switch it back over to the impressions to start with. So most of the impressions happened within the first 4 days, and then it kind of just has been gliding very, very, very slowly ever since. So this is pretty well tapped out as far as it's probably going to go, unless something suddenly changes for it, like a rush of new subscribers or something. That I'll check out that first video, which, unlikely. But so the average percent viewed for this is 16%. It is my highest viewed video, so it's 158 views, and it contributes to a good chunk of the watch time hours. I believe the total watch time hours is 14, so this is about half of that. And then it also accounts for 25 of my subscribers, and probably technically more than that because it would only count the ones that were subscribing, I think, through the actual video itself. So if you watched the video, then went to the channel page and then subscribed after that, it wouldn't be counting those. So I do think that this video probably contributes to most of the subscribers. And it's probably because it was my first video, and one of the first things I said was I don't have any subscribers kind of thing. So probably people trying to support, which, I totally appreciate that. I'm just saying that none of the other subsequent videos have really garnered very many subscribers since that first one. The click-through rate on this one was also really high, so 4.3%, really high relative to what I typically get. So I think that's my highest click-through rate. So all around, this is just my best video performance wise on pretty much all metrics, except for maybe the average percent viewed. That might be about average or so, maybe even below average. I'm not sure. I have to double check. We'll see. Now, most of the time when I'm looking at these charts, I keep it on impressions just because my usual views are very low. So impressions are kind of a magnification of views. And so I can actually see a bit of a graph. This one's okay to look at for views. So I could take a look at that one there. Once again, still most of the views popped off in the first 4 days. And then after that, it was a little bit slower of a ride up. Now, this particular video didn't have a good thumbnail, right? It was just kind of a slide from the picture or from the video, and it didn't have an incredible name or anything like that. I didn't even have great keywords. So I kind of blame its success on the YouTube algorithm kind of pushing it more, maybe. I actually don't have a good reasoning for it. But this one in particular did pop off better than pretty much all the other videos. All right, so we'll go ahead and continue on to the next video. And so the next video up is the 7 days as a YouTuber, which is basically YouTube Chronicles week 1. Go ahead and take a look here at the retention. So the main drop off, this one kind of had a little bit of a 2-step drop off, but I'd say the main drop off ended about here at about 40 seconds. So I still had about 42% of the viewership at that point, and it stayed pretty well throughout the entirety of the video. And this is probably because this video was shorter. It was more entertaining. I did a lot more editing for it just for fun kind of effects and that sort of thing. So it's understandable why this one might have done a bit better in terms of retention. Now go ahead and go to the main analytics section. Once again, I'll go ahead and add the percent viewed and switch it back to impressions. So this one capped off most of its views after about 4.5 days in. So it's pretty similar to the other video. It did end up having a little bit of a tick up here. I don't remember for sure, but this might have been when I decided to change up some keywords or something like that. I did some things to a few of my videos that I should have kept better track of for experimentation purposes, for controlling my variables. I didn't do a very good job at keeping track of that. So unfortunately, I don't remember if this is the moment that I change that or not. But I will start trying to track that better in the future so I can kind of know what works and what doesn't. So the click-through rate of this one was 3.1. It was also still pretty good. And I did make a simple thumbnail for this one. I used Canva for that one. And it looks okay, but I got 3.1%, which for me is relatively high still, even though that's generally speaking not the greatest of percent. And this one did get a fair amount of views. This is about a 10th or 11th of my total views, so it's pretty good, especially when you consider over half or almost half of my views come from just my first video. This contributed 1 of the hours for the watch time hours, and it had pretty good average percent viewed. So this one's up to 32%. I think this might actually be my highest one for average percent viewed. Once again, probably because it was more entertaining and it was less time, but it did take a lot of editing to put that all together. And then it also got a subscriber here. Moving on to the next video. All right, so the third video here is YouTube Chronicles Week 2. Going down to the retention section, once again, this one has a less clear drop-off. There's one at the 30-second mark, which I still have 54% at that point. And then probably the second big drop-off here was the minute and 20-second mark, still holding at 38%, which is reasonable, definitely better than my first video. Though obviously I want to get that up closer to 50% holding to the end. That would be much better. I don't know, maybe you guys know, but what the average is for a successful kind of YouTuber, what their retention is towards the end of the video. That'd be interesting to find out. This video did hold pretty well, so that was pretty good. I'll go ahead and switch over to the other section. Once again, adding in the average percent viewed and switching it over to impressions. Now this one starts to get a bit further down there in terms of total views and that sort of thing. So here's the impressions chart. After 4 days, it got most of what it had, and then it had another uptick right around here. I don't recall for sure. This might have been related to one of the changes that I had mentioned that I did. I'm not really sure. It's hard to remember. I'm definitely going to do a better job of that, writing that down so I can refer to it later. But I do believe that this was probably about the time that I started doing some of that kind of stuff. So it probably was related to that, which did help. So there was a good uptick there, and now it's starting to kind of, cap off again, but that's okay. So this one contributed to 1.1 watch time hours, and but it had a pretty low click-through rate of 1.3%, but it did have still a good average percent viewed. So that actually, this one's maybe the highest. Well, I guess we'll see as we go through these videos which one really is truly the highest. But 36.2% might be the highest. The other one was like 35.1 or something. I don't recall what that was. But now, just to kind of demonstrate why I look at impressions over views right now, because the views chart is a little bit more blocky, so you can't see so much of a curved graph, and it's kind of just flat for a while. Then you get another one, kind of thing. So if I start getting hundreds of views, I'll probably start looking at the views chart instead of the impressions chart. But for now, I'll just continue looking at the views. And this one didn't net anything on the subscriber section. So we'll go ahead and look at the next video. All right, so we'll go ahead and take a look at the fourth video here. So that's 100x views guaranteed with 4 key items. This was the first kind of more content-y like video, though I consider it still a channel video. This is the video that covered basically the intro and script and thumbnail and title, and kind of just going over the tips and tricks, or what YouTubers have said that you should do around these items. And this is one of the first ones that I started trying to put more emphasis on the thumbnail itself and the titles as well. So going down to the retention section down here, the kind of ending of the drop off was at about 1 minute and 13 seconds. So that seems to be kind of a common theme for my videos, is it kind of stops at about 1 minute and 20 seconds ish into the video. Once again, still not good to be dropping down to 20% by 1 minute and 20 seconds in, but it's something I'll work on. All right, so coming up to the stats here, I'm going to go ahead and add average percent viewed and switch over to impressions. All right, so this one had, its first leg up pretty quickly and got to around 400 some impressions, and then it kind of slowed down a bit, and then it continued up, and then it was pretty well done after about 5.5 days in. And then it's been a kind of a slow ride up from there. And it's only gotten about 21 views, which, gives it a 1.7% click-through rate, which is also still kind of low. And then the average percent viewed was only 20%, which is, for my channel, probably about average. And then it did get a subscriber here though, too. So that's good. It accounted for about 1 hour of the watch time. I believe this video was like 16 or 17 minutes long. I'd have to double check. So this was a longer video. So 20% watched for the average for 16, 17 minute video did account for a good amount. So there was at least that going for it. All right, so moving on to the next video. All right, so the next video is 3 weeks on YouTube was a wild ride, which is YouTube Chronicles week 3. So looking down at the retention here, the main drop off ended at about here-ish, I guess. So 34% left at about 1 minute in there, and then it kind of just was a slow, gradual decline from that point on. So not the greatest, but that's, once again, still an area that I'm working on. And this was the first time that I started using this style of thumbnail. So I had some text on there, and then me with my green screen in the back, and just kind of took a picture. First I used the video to record myself in different ways, and then I kind of played through that until I found a frame that I'd like, and then I would use that as a image. So going over here to the analytics, I'll go ahead and add average percent viewed and switch it over to impressions. Okay, so here there wasn't a lot of traction. Then it kind of shot off pretty high and then it slowed down a bit, but still was going up really well. And then it shot off again. And I got up here and it was looking really good, you know, from that standpoint. But once again, about 4 days in, it just kind of stays flat for the most part. And it's been pretty flat ever since. It did get 65 views, which was pretty high. I think my second highest video. I have to double check that, but it's pretty high. And it got 2.8 hours of watch time, which is also really high. And with a 21% average view percent, that it, you know, with 65 views, that ends up, this is like a 12-minute video, I think. So it ends up gaining 2.8 watch time hours, which is, you know, generally pretty good. And it also got 3 subscribers, which is cool. And the click-through rate was 3.2. So it was still pretty good, pretty high for my channel. Okay, so moving on from there, let's go ahead and go to the next video. All right, so the next video was the YouTube for beginners, niche, motivation, and success. This was the one that was about getting started, motivation, what to focus on in the beginning and throughout, and how to find your niche and scheduling and outsourcing and that sort of stuff. So going into here, looking at the retention, let's see, the main drop off ended about here. So about 40 seconds in. So it seems like 40 seconds to a minute and 20 seconds seems to be the end of the main part of the drop off. But I still held on to 33% at that point. And it held for a little while, about 3 minutes in, and then it started to die to the 20% range, which is not so great. And then towards the end, it gets down to 9%, which is really bad. None of this is really all that surprising with the retention, I guess, and how well these videos are doing when you consider that these videos are really kind of explanatory videos or something of that nature for people that are also just starting YouTube. And so it's not necessarily meant to be super successful videos that I'm going through for these. Hopefully the content videos will be more successful because those are the ones that are really supposed to be shining. Though I currently only have kind of one for that. All right, so going into the analytics for this one. Once again, I'll go ahead and add in the average percent viewed, switch it back over to impressions. And here we can see that 2 days in had most of it, then it slowed down a bit, but then it had a bit more of a curve there. And then, of course, again, at 4 days in, this has been pretty consistent. 4 days in, it kind of tops off and it goes pretty slow up from there. So it does seem to be a pattern for 4 days into a video, it kind of stops. All right, so this one got 1.8 watch time hours and 33 views, 19% average percent viewed. So once again, average here, okay views, or for me, I guess it's actually above average maybe. I'm not sure. I got to find out what my averages are so I can actually reference those for these videos. But 1.8 watch time hours is still pretty good. And 2.5% click-through rate. I believe this is where I started kind of having worse click-through rate. I tried things. I know for sure on this one, when I originally posted it, I had a slightly different thumbnail and then I reposted it with a bolder background or for the shading of the actual text. And that might have been somewhere near the beginning, but it's hard to tell because when you do it too early, then you can't know what the effect was compared to it just having different, you know, like when you look at these things and they have little bumps all of a sudden, you can't really say, oh, it was because I changed the thumbnail, because they might have just been natural bumps in the video. Now, if I did something over here and suddenly I get a nice bump up, then I think that'll be more likely to be related to the thing that I changed rather than just some random bump that might have happened. Since you can kind of see after going through these videos, they kind of go flat and it's pretty much flat after it peaks. So no subscribers on this one. This one was a reasonable video, but didn't do exceptionally well. And this is also one of my content-ish videos, but we'll go ahead and go on to the next video. All right, and the next video is, let's see, can you really grow on YouTube in just 4 weeks, which is also known as YouTube Chronicles Week 4. So in looking at the retention, we have, this one is a bit harder to look at because it stretches out further. So this one goes out to about 1 minute and 50 seconds. And it reaches 20%. So for my videos, that's kind of actually good in some ways that it lasted that long. I guess you could also look at this little mark here at the 120 where I still have 33%. So some of my better videos I think had around that percentage, or around that percent around that time. But this one then does glide off into low territory. Once again, I really got to bump up my ability to keep retention around. So moving into the stats section here, going to add in the view percent again and switch to impressions. Now, this one was a bit interesting. This one was posted, I think, at a little bit different time of the day. So this one than some of my other videos, but this one popped off right away with instantaneous movement, then kind of glided up at a pretty good rate, then had another little bump up, and then it kind of went flat from here. Once again at the 4-day mark, but this one was just kind of interesting because it popped off right away, as opposed to, you know, the others, which took several hours before they rose up. So I might look into that one a bit more, to study it a bit more, to see what this one was different. What was different about this one? Maybe it was just about the timing. I'm not really sure. But also in general, this one had a lot of impressions, like that more than I would have expected it to get in general. So 1,400, almost 1,500 impressions that seemed kind of out of nowhere to me, but still only got 31 views. So 1.5% click-through rate, which is once again pretty low. But it did get 2 subscribers. So that's also good. So, you know, some of this stuff is like, it's back and forth, right? I got a low click-through rate, but I did gain some subscribers through it. And it did get 1.1 watch time hours, but then it only had 16.5% average view, which is not great. So this one's kind of all over the map. Though we are starting to get into the videos that are of more recent publish. So this one is not even quite 7 days old yet. So that's to keep in mind as well. All right, so moving on to the next video. All right, and so the next one is math. It's the Math by Fire one. So this is Math Homework Got You Down. I've got the answer. So this is the one where it's an open invitation for people to submit their math homework to me, and then I'll do it for them, which I haven't gotten any submissions for yet, but hopefully I'll get some of those soon. Going into the analytics, this one is more recent, right? So it doesn't have enough, it doesn't have the audience retention yet. I don't have a firm grasp on what it requires to make that show up. I'm pretty sure it's not just time, but it's also how many views that it needs to have. So I'm not exactly sure what what it needs, but all of my other videos have it except for this one and the one that I posted yesterday. So I'll cover the retention for these last 2 videos in the next video, or the next monetization video. But we'll go ahead and take a quick look at the stats on it so far. Once again, adding in percent viewed and taking a look at impressions. And this one's another interesting one that kind of shoots off right away with impressions, and then it slows down a bit, and then it shoots up a bit, and then it kind of glides from there. Now, we're not quite at the 4-day mark yet, but considering this angle here, it's probably not got much more oomph in it. Now, this one is going to definitely be one that I'll come back to in the future anyway, because I'm going to be linking to it or I'm going to be promoting it in other videos that I do. So I'm going to be doing some math lessons for algebra all the way through calculus. And as I do those, I'm going to be posting, and also you can submit your homework to and check this video out kind of thing, whatever, right? So this one is probably going to get some more traction via that kind of situation. Now, this one got a lot of impressions. It got terrible amount of views compared to the number of impressions. So the click-through rate is only 0.6%. So very, 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 very bad there. But still, I'm not really worried about this one because this is meant to be a spring off into a whole bunch of other videos. And so I'll be promoting it through other videos that I'm putting out for math related stuff. Now, it does have a 25.5% average percent viewed, so that is a little bit higher than my average, so that's good. And it did get, 0.3 watch time hours, so that's cool too. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and move on to the next video. And lastly, we have the week 5 for YouTube Chronicles. So 5 weeks on YouTube, tracking growth and lessons learned. So going ahead and switching over to this one. Once again, since it's so new, it doesn't have any retention yet. So we'll just kind of go ahead and jump into the stats. Now this one is so new that it doesn't have a lot of data to look at. Go ahead and add that all in there. And even this one is kind of blocky. This one has had low impressions so far altogether. I mean, it's only been 24 hours, not even quite, since I posted that. So it hasn't had a lot of time to get impressions, but compared, I think, to some of the other ones we looked at, it does seem like it has low impressions relative to that. So it had a spike around 8 hours, and then it has been kind of slow up from there. But we're nowhere near the 4-day kind of mark that is usually the death of the video. So looking still like we could make some ground there. This one has a 2.4% click-through rate, which is okay. And then it has 0.8 watch time hours, which is pretty good, especially for only 9 views. And this one is 47.3% average view, which obviously is very high. And actually, I didn't really realize that one was so high going into this. Otherwise, I definitely would have said this is my highest one because I didn't know this one was even that high. So this is all still very fresh data. So I haven't even looked at this one all that closely. And this says, it doesn't say 0 here. It says dash dash. So I don't know if that means it hasn't determined it yet or what that means. I guess I'll have to find that out. But yeah, so we'll go ahead and switch over from here to the channel overview itself. We'll switch to those analytics. And actually, I want to take a quick moment to acknowledge something that's interesting here. So first I'll switch this to lifetime. And you'll notice that this is 346 views, 14.7 watch time hours, and 39 subscribers. It doesn't seem like that's fully up to date. Because if you compare that to here, if you were to add up all of the views, you'll actually get 374 views, I believe. So that's pretty different than the views on the analytics here when you switch to the lifetime. So it's 346. So what I believe it is that they update it once a day. Maybe it's twice a day. I'm still not 100% sure, but I believe it's like once a day this value gets updated. And that applies to on this page as well. So if I switch over to here, you're going to see the same kind of thing where these are out of date by some amount. So like, for instance, in my weekly videos, like when I was looking at impressions, I'm looking at this one right here, even though it's technically out of date, because otherwise then I have to actually go ahead and count it up one by one myself. Okay, so from here, I'm actually going to just use these other 2 tabs that I have set up. So this first tab shows all of the videos graphed out. So I'm looking at impressions here. Now you can see that there's this initial video that had a lot of impressions and a lot of views, and then it was kind of low for the next few videos. And then it started to pick up a bit. And then by the time it reached this one, it started popping off again. It got almost as high as the first one. And then it was still pretty high, even higher on a single day, I think maybe than this other one over here. But this one then really popped off in comparison. So it's just kind of interesting to see that trend all of a sudden start to emerge for impressions. Now, impressions don't necessarily mean views. So I'll switch over to views, and you can see the difference in views here. The views for the first video are obviously much, much higher than the other ones, but there is a little bit of growth over there to the right to some extent, though I would say overall it needs some work for sure. And then looking at the same thing over here on this page, this is looking at the total. So I just have all of them aggregated, and it shows it over time. So impressions are looking pretty good there. And then I'll switch it over to views, and views look a little bit better when you aggregate them all together. So through the multiple videos that I'm putting out every week, then the aggregate of that is doing reasonably okay versus like my first video, for instance. Like all of this right here is just my first video. But switching back over to this one, just for more color, You can also take a look here at like subscribers. So I have 25 subscribers that came from the first video, 3 from this one, 2, 1, 1. So most of the subscribers came from the first video, as well as some like channel direct videos or other methods kind of thing. So 39 in total. Most of them, over half of them, came from just the first video. And on here, we can actually start to compare things and see how they look. So you can't order these by some of these fields, but 16.4%, then 20.7, 17, 14, 20, 33, 18, 35, and 28. So this does not have, I don't think it has my most recent video. Might have to refresh the page, or maybe it just doesn't show up on here because I don't think it shows up right away either. But anyway, so out of these ones, the highest percent was the YouTube Chronicles week 2, it looks like. But as we saw earlier, that other one had pretty significant percent on that one, though that might die off once it starts getting a few more views. And then, of course, watch time hours. Most of it is from the original video, just mostly because of views. And then the beginners, for YouTube for beginners needs motivation and success. That's number 2, or number 3 rather. And then from there it kind of goes down. And with the worst one being the math video, but that's not surprising to me given what the video is. And also I didn't, that one I specifically did not publish or notify subscribers for. So you just had to find that naturally or go onto the channel and look for it, kind of thing, that sort of thing. All right, well, that was, I think, all I wanted to cover there. Once again, if you guys have some ideas of how I should cover this stuff or other things I could look at, like, of course, I could look at like traffic source and that sort of thing. So like browse is pretty much where the bulk of things come from. And besides like the video for the math, I don't think I'm really going to get a whole lot of like searching for my videos. I think it's going to come from suggested or browsing and that sort of thing. So that seems to fit with what I would expect. And I don't think I really have much info like in here. Geography. Yeah, it just says United States, cities. Yeah, I actually haven't even looked into how to use this, but I don't think I can really see a lot of things like this one. I don't have enough demographics for it, so I can't see that information. Can't see gender. Some of these pages I haven't even looked through, so I don't know what this is. Date, subscription status, and so that's most people are not subscribed, and then I have 68 that are subscribed. So these are some things I could look at, but I don't really know how I might comment on them. Content type. I'm not actually sure what this would be. Would this be like shorts versus non-shorts? I'm not sure what this means. Or maybe like polls and other things. I don't know. And then there's playlists, device type. Maybe this one might be interesting to look at since it shows mobile versus computer type stuff. I guess that is a little bit interesting. There's more mobile viewing than I would have expected. But anyway, let me know what you guys think on what I should cover within these stats and in what way. Any ideas would be helpful. So put those in the comments. All right, so I'm just going to quickly go over here to the Amazon affiliate link stuff. And here in October, we got 4 clicks, then 6 more, then 6 more, then 6 more. So 22 in total throughout the entirety of the month. Prior to looking at this today, there was no ordered items, but there's 2 now showing up. Now, it doesn't say any earnings. And if we go over here to the full report, I'm thinking it might be because they haven't shipped yet or something like that. So if I click on earnings, then it says items shipped. There's nothing here. There's no revenue, no commission income. I do see it up here on the chart that there were 2 ordered items. So I'm not exactly sure if I just have to wait a little bit or if those aren't eligible or something like that. So I don't know. So we'll see how that evolves over time. I am interested in doing maybe a channel or just a series of videos that are all about just affiliate link type stuff, because it does seem like if you could get a lot of traction with it, especially if you're reviewing a lot of things, that you could get a lot of clicks and those can translate to purchases. And if you're not aware, just because the affiliate link is for ABC, it doesn't mean they have to buy ABC for you to earn money. right? So I believe the way it works is anything that they order maybe within 24 hours of clicking your link will be counted towards it, but I'm not really sure. I haven't looked into it all that deeply, but it is something I think that might be pretty lucrative. All right, so for current stats and trajectory towards monetization, we're currently at 39 out of 1,000 subscribers, which is 3.9%. 14 out of 4,000 watch time hours, which is 0.35%. And this is over the course of 35 days. So based on that, if it keeps up the same rate for this 35 days, for the next 35 days, and so on, it'll take 875 days to reach the subscriber goal, which is March 26th, 2027, and 10,000 days for watch time hours, which is March 19th, 2052. So obviously things are going to have to speed up quite a bit in order to get there anytime soon, especially the watch time hours, because you have to get that within 365 days. And that's obviously much beyond that. So we'll see where we're at in the next monetization video. All right, so that wraps it up for this month's monetization video. If you have any ideas on how I can improve these, just put it in the comments and make sure to hit that like button so that it can spread to more people. And if you want to join me on my journey from zero to YouTube hero, be sure to also hit that subscribe button. This is Create by Fire.